Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We turn now to a little poem called Miracles. This is poem number 21 of the 38 of Autumn Rivulets, so we're now past halfway through Autumn Rivulets. We've commented that autumn representing or symbolizing that which is old, rivulets that which is new. I find this a remarkable little poem to kind of fit inside of several of the other really quasi-religious types of texts of Autumn Rivulets. And again, this is another one of our catalog poems, as we have seen so regularly in our study of Leaves of Grass. Now, our assumptions here that you've been with us from the beginning at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Talks with Walt, our playlist. And from the very opening poems of inscriptions all the way up to and including a set of introductory comments to Autumn Rivulets, and then we just finished with the poem Thawed. Now our Nortons here, that gives us some background information, will tell us that this poem appeared as Poem of Perfect Miracles in Leaves of Grass 1856, and is Leaves of Grass number 8 in Leaves of Grass 1860. The present title was in 1867. And then we're told persistent revision to 1881 shortened this poem by 11 lines. The theme of the poem had long been on the poet's mind, and in a pre-1855 notebook, Whitman had written, quote, "We hear of miracles, but what is there that is not a miracle," end quote. Surpassing this poem in fervor are several revelations in early sections of Song of Myself, culminating obviously with the miracle of a mouse in section 31, as we commented when we did that poem. Now just to remind, speaking of Song of Myself, remember in passage 12, all of the things of the universe are perfect miracles, each as profound as any. And then in Song of the Open Road number 4, I think I could stop here myself and do miracles. Now this idea of challenging the religious notion that miracles are proof of a religious orthodoxy is one that obviously Whitman is dancing with here. One more reason he is an iconoclast, one more reason a lot of people had serious problems with what it is he's going to argue here. He'll begin with another one of his famous rhetorical questions. We're going to study the verbs, we're going to pay attention to repetition as well in this cataloging. Why? Who makes much of a miracle? Now, the way he begins with this why makes this poem almost like a conversation, which is again why we call our study Talks with Walt. It's as if Whitman is having this conversation. He goes, hey, why? Who makes much of a miracle? As to me, and that's a formulation we're going to see several times in this poem, as to me, I know of nothing else but miracles. Whether I walk the streets of Manhattan, again paying attention to our verbs, or dart my sight. By the way, this is the 20th time already, the 21st time that word darting has been used. He likes this word a lot. Or dart my sight over the roofs of houses toward the sky, or wade with naked feet along the beach just in the edge of the water. This idea of nakedness we saw obviously in the previous poem Thought. And think about the power of the edge of the water. The lands is the edge, the idea of T.S. Eliot's Dry Salvages and the game that gets played there as well. Or stand under trees in the woods. Remember in Song of the Open Road number 7 that he said there are certain trees that when you stand under them large and melodious thoughts occur. Or talk by day with anyone I love. Or sleep in the bed at night with anyone I love. Obviously very controversial lines for especially when Whitman publishes this poem. Or sit at table at dinner with the rest. Notice these 14 ors. Or sit at table at dinner with the rest. Or look at strangers opposite to me riding in the car. That curiosity that we've seen so often in Leaves of Grass. Or watch honeybees busy about the hive of a summer forenoon, learning from his study of Aeneid the power of the study of the honeybee. Or animals feeding in the fields, or birds, or the wonderfulness of insects in the air, or the wonderfulness, he loves that word twice now, of the sundown, all of these powerful exhibits from nature, or of stars shining so quiet and bright, taking us back to learned astronomer, or the exquisite delight thin curve of the new moon in spring. These, with the rest, one and all, are to me miracles, the whole referring, yet each distinct and in its place. In other words, sounding very much like William Blake, and of course he learned much of these ideas from William Blake, the idea that nature is itself a profound enigma, mystery. He calls it a miracle. And then he comes back to this construction two more times with to me. To me, Every hour of the light and dark is a miracle. Every cubic inch of space is a miracle. Notice all these measuring terms for a guy that says he can't be measured in Song of Myself, passage 46. Every square yard of the surface of the earth is spread with the same, and every foot of the interior swarms with the same. Again, this use of very interesting verbs like swarms with the same. In other words, if you have the sight, everything is a beautiful enigma, a miracle. To me, he finishes, the sea is a continual miracle. And of course, we've commented in so many, Out of the Cradle Endlessly Rocking and by Blue Ontario Shore, the power of the sea for Whitman is ubiquitous. The fishes that swim, thinking of course about There Was a Child Went Forth, the rocks, the motion of the waves, the ships, notice we move from nature now to technology, the ships with men in them, what stranger miracles are these? So he'll begin with a rhetorical question, he ends with a rhetorical question. And what is it that he's really arguing in a little short poem like this? Because this is a pretty radical little poem. Well, he's arguing that, of course, the natural is every bit as important as the supernatural, and in fact, maybe even more so. Because the supernatural is going to be only evidenced through the natural, and therefore, it is going to be the study of the natural and the technology that will be created out of nature. The human mind creating a ship that can then sail across the ocean is a miracle as well. At 2b, I love the repetition of or over and over again to create that cataloging and obviously the use of the rhetorical question, because he knows he's upsetting certain people when he gives a certain idea or premise like this. At 3a, we can think about all kinds of influences of an idea like this from the time that Whitman would be writing it. I mean, you could think about, for example, the famous Course in Miracles, as some of you are familiar with, from 1976, attributed to Helen Sherman. I just want to point out, though, that this idea is actually in keeping with the transcendental ideas of Emerson, Thoreau, and Emily Dickinson. The idea that the transcendental view of nature, and go back to our comments on Emerson's essay Nature that we have posted at learnstrong.net, there's something compelling about this idea of seeing in nature the miraculous, the divine, the awe-inspiring. And again, all of that is going to be borrowed heavily from Plato and Plotinus' view of this as well. There's something majestic, awe-filling about this. Now, I think that the argument that Whitman would make in a conversation like this is that he is wanting to challenge a certain spirit of awe or reverence for the world. And when one has that awe or reverence, one can easily call that feeling, that experience, a miracle. Well, finally at 3b, I mean, what are we going to do as we kind of own a text like this? Obviously, one of the central questions is, where do you come down on this notion of the miraculous, of miracles, of the supernatural? Do you believe in such things? Are you capable of awe and reverence and somehow differentiating that from your use of the word miracles, or for you, are they synonymous? And to what degree is your study of Leaves of Grass helping you to find your way to awe and reverence? Thank you.